Good evening, I'm Faye Barker. This is ITV News London. There have been more apologies over parties in Downing Street. Today, the government said sorry to the Queen after it emerged there was another do the night before Prince Philip's funeral, a service where the nation watched as she sat alone. Boris Johnson didn't attend that particular party, but how is all this affecting people's opinions of the Prime Minister? Carolyn Sim has been to Windsor.
In Windsor, Prince Philip's funeral is still fresh in people's minds. So too is the image of the Queen sat alone, abiding by the rules, as she said goodbye to him. But the night before in Downing Street, the mood was far from sombre. 2 boozy leaving parties were held, which ended up in the garden. Today, the Queen received an apology from Number 10, saying it was deeply regrettable that this took place at a time of national mourning. And people here certainly agree.
I do keep thinking about the Queen sitting by herself at Prince Philip's funeral, and I don't think it's right.
It's time for Boris to shoot off to party land and stay there.
It's a bit callous, the way the whole thing's been dealt with. It's one story and then it's another one that comes out later, and then when you're forced to apologise, it's, oh, I'm sorry, but let's move on.
Cafe owner Tony Mendes remembers how quiet Windsor was on that night. He says an apology isn't good enough.
Other people had parties, they paid fines and things like that. Now what they're going to think about it? Ask their money back and say, I apologise too. Can I have my money back? And, but people in power, they can do whatever they want these days now.
At one point, it's reported someone attending the party was sent to this supermarket on the Strand to get more wine, which was packed into a suitcase. At the time, government guidance banned people from socialising indoors. Only 6 people were allowed to meet outdoors.
Earlier this week, the Prime Minister did apologise for mistakes that have been made. We have the inquiry taking place by Sue Gray, and we are very clear that there were real mistakes made.
And I really can't see how Boris Johnson can possibly look the Queen in the eye again. He's supposed to see her every week. What will he say next time he sees her? I think what he should say is, I am so sorry, Your Majesty, I resign.
But the real Boris Johnson didn't leave Downing Street today. Only his face on dozens of masks of these protesters could be seen. He will eventually have to face the electorate, though, which is feeling very let down. Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Detectives investigating a rape in Southwark are appealing for witnesses. An 18-year-old woman was walking down an alleyway near Peckham Rye train station last night. She was approached from behind by 2 males who took her to Holly Grove and attacked her. Both men are believed to have worn dark clothing, face coverings and gloves. No one's been arrested.
Yeah, I'm really aware that this will have a really significant impact on the local community and the feeling of safety, particularly for women as they move around the local area. Just please be assured that we're doing everything we can to identify the perpetrators as quickly as possible, and also that we've put additional police resources in the area both today and over the weekend, and if necessary over the coming weeks.
In Croydon earlier tonight, people gathered to stand together against youth violence. Last year, a record 30 teenagers in the capital were murdered, and 5 of those tragedies happened in Croydon, more than in any other borough. Well, community leaders there tonight said it was now down to them to put this right.
To be in a room with 5 families that are weeping because of the loss of their children, my point is enough's enough. Children need role models, they need to see pillars in their communities, they need to see fathers, they need to see mentors, and that's what we're calling for today. We're looking at 100 men to volunteer to mentor 1 hour to 2 hours of their time per week to try and stop knife crime, knife violence. It's causing havoc in our community. It's ripping through Croydon. It's disgusting. It has to stop. I'm sending a message out to every young person that all of us are standing together against this. We're standing together as a community. There's about 150 to 200 people here saying that we've had enough of the killings in our street. We don't want no more blood on our street, and we're coming together as a community to say enough's enough.
As we know, it's not a colour thing because poverty has no colour. But unfortunately, it's our black children that's dying. So I do believe it's time for our black community to stand up together and patrol our own streets. We cannot keep depending on others to patrol and protect our own children. Like Anthony said, 100 men to come out here and patrol our streets every single day at the beginning of school and after school. That's where we start. And then we go into the estates, and then we go to the shopping centres. We will patrol until there's no more crime.
Londoners were warned to limit outdoor exercise today because of high pollution levels. Last night, the Government UK Air website forecast a rare episode of very high pollution ranked 10 out of 10 for potential harm. Well, although the rating was revised down this morning to 8 out of 10, adults and children with lung problems were still advised to limit outdoor physical activity. The dirty air is expected to clear by tomorrow.
Well, we've had several days of very still air, so emissions from buildings and road traffic in particular have just been rising into windless air, and that's built up, and the government has issued a warning of high air pollution in London today. This air pollution episode, we hope, will clear tomorrow. Today, Londoners are literally stewing in their own juice. But tomorrow the wind speed should pick up and that will blow this air pollution away.
3 Extinction Rebellion activists have been cleared of obstructing the railway in a 2019 stunt. Reverend Sue Parfitt and Father Martin Newell climbed on top of a DLR train at Shadwell, while Philip Kingston glued himself to the side. Reverend Parfitt said the verdict showed the protest had been the right thing to do. And the bank branch of the Northern Line will close this Saturday for 17 weeks while improvement works take place. It's part of an upgrade which aims to increase customer capacity at Bank and Monument by 40%. Arsenal have applied for their North London derby match with Tottenham this weekend to be postponed. The club says many of its players are currently unavailable due to a combination of COVID cases, injuries and players away at the Africa Cup of Nations. Finally, to a story 500 years in the telling. John Blank was a trumpeter who served in Henry VIII's court. He's thought to be the first Black Briton to have an image of him recorded. Well, this afternoon, a plaque was unveiled in his honour. Anna Geary reports.
Celebrating the Black Tudor trumpeter John Blank, a man who played in the early 16th century for Henry VII and Henry VIII at Greenwich Palace. 3, 2, 1. This afternoon, a plaque was unveiled there in what is now the Old Royal Naval College, and a musical fanfare played in his honour. An archive project looking into John's life found evidence of him asking Henry VIII for more money.
And the king said, so you should. And he signed the petition. He actually doubled his wage. I think it says a lot about him in the sense that he was confident enough to ask.
Very little is known of John Blank's early life, but one theory is that he may have come from Spain in the entourage of Catherine of Aragon in 1501. Richard Henry is Professor of Trombone at Trinity Laban. He says he and his students are inspired in learning about Black musicians that have performed in the same space as where they play now.
When you consider that this was 500 years ago, and to the king no less, it kind of shows that Black history and British history, they're not separate things at all. They're actually very much entwined.
He hopes Londoners will visit the plaque and celebrate the capital's Black heritage. Stories untold until now. Anna Geary, ITV News, Greenwich.
Right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Here's Lucy.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
Good evening to you. Cold, clear and crisp in the next few hours as temperatures slide. Freezing and frosty with some fog patches developing to give some poor visibility in some locations. Close to freezing in town, a little lower out in the countryside, -2 possible. as low as -3 in the most prone zones. A frost first thing tomorrow morning, as well as some patches of fog, quite dense patches of fog further north and further west, particularly in the suburbs. And here's some poor visibility into the new day. Not only gloomy, grey and foggy, but a frosty start for many of us. Freezing as we head into the weekend. Temperatures will tend to recover as we head into the early afternoon, around 7 or 8 degrees like the last few days, but an awful lot of cloud limiting the brighter skies, slithers of sunshine at best, and staying notably chilly in some suburbs. Here just 4 or 5 degrees where it stays a little greyer, the fog and the frost taking a little longer to lift. Into Sunday, a lot more in the way of cloud cover, but I'm optimistic of it staying dry and fine. Cheering up into a new week, stunning sunshine returns, but we keep the cold, frosty, at times foggy nights. See you soon.
Valent sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
That's it from us for tonight. We're back tomorrow evening at 5:45. Until then, bye-bye.